That was a test in case y'all didn't notice. Yep. And for all the jokes of me saying I'm not going to stand up here like an idiot, and people probably saying you are an idiot and things like that as well, brought that on myself also. But as I was saying, thanks to our fans, second hottest game on record from what I understand last weekend. It was loud. Gamecock Walk was awesome, and then the electricity in there was fantastic. And hate that we had the weather delay, but crowd noise was a factor even till the end. I mean, Old Dominion had some pre-snap penalties there at the end of the game when they were backed up down there by the cockpit. So appreciate the fans that were there and making Saturday great. And hopefully next Saturday when we're back in Columbia, it'll be even better. Congratulations to Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart and being an SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. Awesome kudos and recognition for those guys. Certainly well-deserved, without a doubt, and hopefully the first of many for those guys, and then other ones on our defense also. I know we've had some defensive tackles that have won that award in the past, and surely believe that we'll have other guys on our defense winning it this year as the year goes on. Excited to open up SEC play this week up in Lexington. Have great respect for Coach Stoops personally and his program. Always enjoy going up to Lexington. As many of you know, I lived in Kentucky for 8 years and grew up in elementary school following UK athletics, and Louisville athletics was rolling at the time in basketball with Denny Crum and Purvis Ellison and LeBradford Smith and all those guys, and then certainly Kentucky basketball with Joe B. Hall and Eddie Sutton when I was growing up, and Kenny Skywalker and Mel Turpin, and always followed Kentucky football. Great quarterbacks of the past. Some of y'all are too young to remember these names, but guys like Pookie Jones and Billy Jack Haskins that played quarterback at Kentucky. Both those guys were from Murray, Kentucky, or went to high school in the Murray, Kentucky area that kind of grew up around, and which is where I was from. So always have followed them and always enjoy going back up to Kentucky. And it'll be a great atmosphere on Saturday up in Lexington. Got a big challenge on our hands. Obviously, you watch them on offense. We know they have weapons at receiver, big veteran offensive line, talented quarterback, and Brock Vandegrift, who I'm very familiar with from trying to recruit him when we were at Oklahoma. And new offensive coordinator, but they're operating at a high level offensively, defensively, veteran defense, 10 returning starters. I think 10 of the returning starters are either juniors or seniors, so it's guys that we've been playing against here for a while that have a lot of experience in them. It's essentially the same defense as last year. They've just traded out a linebacker that's with the Panthers now and brought in a linebacker that just happened to start at Georgia last season as well. So they're really, really good on defense and led by arguably the best defensive tackle in the entire conference in Walker, number 0. So really talented defense. And then special teams wise, Brown, the receiver, has returned 4 kicks for touchdowns in his career. He is elite as a kickoff returner, and we've got to do a great job being able to cover kicks. So big challenge, but our guys are really, really excited about going up there and playing on Saturday, competing, starting out SEC play. Looking forward to seeing a ton of Garnet and Black in that stadium on Saturday afternoon. I know this is a trip that our fans always enjoy going on, and I know a lot of people that are going up there, and we got to have a good week of practice and put on a good performance for them on Saturday, but looking forward to seeing a lot of Gamecocks up there as well. So questions?
Shane, the guys were in here talking about some of the offense and about execution, communication, that kind of thing. As you look back on it and talk with the coaches, was there any schematic change that maybe needed to be had or discussed?
Not really. Old Dominion, and let's give Old Dominion some credit. The way they play defense makes it tough to do a lot of things. And just the structure of their defense, they take away a lot. And this isn't they're Old Dominion, you should be able to do this. No, they take away a lot with what they do schematically. So it was going to be a challenge. I said that on the radio show last week. I said that leading up to it, that the way they play defense is different and is a challenge. And we didn't do a good enough job of executing. Surely, David, after every game, you look back and they're saying schematically that you would tweak and do differently. But, for the most part, we got to coach better. We got to, execute better. But, you don't have 35 minutes time of possession and a 16-play drive, a 13-play drive, a 10-play drive, and stink. So we did some good things. Was it good enough on Saturday? Absolutely not. Nobody is saying that. But we also did some good things. And if we got to be able to finish drives in the red zone and not kick field goals, and if we score touchdowns down there and not kick field goals, I think everybody's feeling a lot different about things too.
Lenore was in here talking about how he felt like he played timid at times, what he saw when he was watching himself. What's been sort of the message to him from D'Lo and you and whoever else that to kind of get past that and improve upon that?
Relax, have fun. He's our guy. He's a hell of a quarterback. There's a lot of pressure on that guy. Or going into Saturday, he's from the state, local kid, starting his first game as a Gamecock in a Gamecock uniform, and the expectations, rightfully so. I mean, he's a really good quarterback. He had high expectations, and I told him on Friday that he didn't need to go out there and be Superman. Just go out there and relax, and we're better around him. And I believe that. I told him we're better around him on offense than what Spencer had around him last year. Now, we don't have Xavier Legette, a first-round pick, but if you just look at our depth at all the positions in the offensive line, I feel like we're better overall as an offense just from a depth standpoint than what we were last year. So I told Lenore, lean on those guys. You don't have to do anything by yourself. And I don't feel like he tried to do too much. I think it's just, the expectations, game one, you're in that stadium, you want to play great. And he did a lot of really good things. He made some nice throws. The deep ball that unfortunately we weren't able to connect on. There's not many guys in the world that can make that throw. And he showed his ability to run. So he did some good stuff. I've said it all along, Hale will be a team that offensively continues to get better each and every week. I mean, we started 8 new guys on the offense Saturday that it was their first game in a Gamecock uniform, if I'm not mistaken, including 2 true freshmen. And that's not an excuse. There's a lot of teams across the country that are starting and playing new players, but there's a lot of new faces around Lenoris, and we're going to continue to get better throughout the season. And Lenoris is right at the top of that list, and he just needs to know that he doesn't need to try and do too much. Just go out there and have fun and play. Work hard and prepare the right way during the week, and then game days should be the fun part for him.
After the game Saturday, you were talking a lot about the perimeter blocking. How much of that, when you went back on film, was effort, and how much of that was scheme?
A mix. I would say there were some schematic things that we didn't quite execute like we needed to, just as far as going in there and digging out defensive backs in the box that receivers have to. There were some times that we, the look kind of got cloudy and we didn't quite end up on the right person. That was a part of it. There were also times where we didn't go in there with quite the intent or the strain that we needed to. A lot of times that we did. I know you guys break down the play of every game, and I'm sure you guys have pointed out Mazio Bennett's effort in perimeter blocking. If you haven't, you need to go back and watch it closely. He competed his rear end off in the perimeter blocking game and being willing to come down into the box and take on people in the box. We need more of that. I think a lot of times we were in the right place. We didn't just execute with the best technique or the intent to get things done that it took on that one, and it was a difference in maybe explosive runs and not. So combination of both, and something that we spent a lot of time on. We always have a drill on Tuesdays in practice where we work perimeter blocking, and today was no different, and we'll continue to get better at it.
Debo is such a big veteran for you guys. How big is he as a voice for you guys in the locker room, especially with the younger guys, especially as you go into an SEC matchup in week 2?
Yeah, he's huge. Not just Debo, but so many leaders that we have. And I've said it before, there's so many when we vote on captains at the end of the season. So many of the top vote getters from last season are still here. They're leaders. Tonka, Boogie, Luke Doty, Vershawn. There's a lot of guys. TJ. We got a lot of older guys that are leaders on this team. But Debo is right there at the top. He was a voice last year on our team and brought great leadership to the team and to the defense particular. And then this year is no different. He's been that way since January, and he's somebody that. He does a great job of that. Whether I talked to him on the phone last night about some stuff that needed to get handled, and he gets it done. So he's been awesome.
You alluded to Kentucky's defensive line. They got some big dudes. They wreak a lot of havoc. But what have you seen from your offensive line, maybe going back and through the film from the game Saturday, that can make you feel really good about their ability to keep them from wreaking the havoc they do to so many other teams?
We played really, really hard on the offensive line. I can't remember if I said this last night on or Sunday night on the teleconference before it got cut off, but go back and watch Case and Henry on the 4th and 1 that we handed the ball off to Rocket. And you want to see the mentality that we want to play with on the offensive line. Watch Case and Henry on that play. So our offensive line played really, really hard. Josiah Thompson started at left tackle as a true freshman. I'm sure you guys can appreciate how hard that is to do in the SEC. It's 2 years in a row we've now done that. But he didn't look lost as a freshman. He played really, really hard. There's one, blitz pickup issue that we'd like to have back, or I'm sure he'd like to have back, but he didn't look lost as a freshman. Having Vershawn out there as the older guy, kind of to settle everybody down, I thought he was great. He was one of our players of the game as a staff after we looked at it, and just yes, we had some protection issues that we certainly got to get cleaned up. That comes back to us as coaches, but I'm excited about our offensive line as they continue to develop and guys continue to gain experience. And you're exactly right. I mean, this number 0, he can absolutely wreck your entire game plan. Not like mess up a play. He can wreck your entire game plan. And he is a load to handle, but it's not just him. 13 on the outside is a really good player, and nobody talks about the other guys they have inside, 90 and 8 and 9. I mean, they're very twitchy and athletic and very disruptive inside. So we've got to do a great job on the offensive line this week for us to be able to do the things that we want to do offensively.
Shane, how do you feel like the connection between Lenoris and the receivers were on Saturday, and what do you chalk up to on some of the maybe the high throws Lenoris had, or guys just not being in the right spots to haul on a catch?
Yeah, I thought we just looked off and we weren't clicking on all cylinders. I'd be lying if I sat up here and said we were. The ball over there to Nick on their sideline was just a high throw. I think that's just probably more mechanics by Lenoris that will get cleaned up without a doubt. But for the most part, I thought he threw the ball well. Certainly there were some misreads and some plays that he would like to have back, just like calls Dow would like to have back, and plays that our other guys would as well. So we need to be better. There's no question about it. I don't like it. I hate to say it, but it's true. We're continuing to gel as a receiving core with the quarterback. 3 of those guys, Dre, Camp, and Nick, didn't go through spring practice, as I said, and we're trying to do it as fast as we can, and we should have been better than what we were on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. There's no question about it, but we're, told the team today we're 88 days from the Clemson game, so we ain't got a lot of time to sit around and wait for this thing to gel. Like, we got to gel right now, and we can't just sit around and just wait for it to happen. We got to make it happen, because each day we're getting closer to the end of the regular season, and we've got to come together pretty quickly here.
Hey, Coach, a lot of players came in and said that communication is the biggest thing that they want to improve upon headed into week 2. What do you chalk that up to? Is it week 1 jitters, new season, or anything you can really point your finger at?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate them saying that. I don't quite know if it's necessarily communication. I mean, the one that I would say would be a communication issue is maybe the deep pass that we gave up to Old Dominion early in the game. That was just a little bit of a malfunction with the coach to player helmet communication, that everything didn't quite get conveyed like it needed to get conveyed. Having said that, we can't allow somebody to run past us even if there is a breakdown in the communication. But the rest of the stuff, I appreciate them saying that, and certainly we need to communicate better, but overall I thought it was good. The quarterback run, that wasn't a communication issue. That was just not being in our gap aspect. And then some of the mishaps we had on offense, I don't know if it was necessarily a communication issue. Is it just not quite executing, which starts with us as coaches. So we'll be better. It's not going to be any easier. We communicated. We were at home where it's easier to communicate. We're going to be on the road in front of 60,000+ on Saturday on national television, where it's going to be harder to communicate. But I didn't have a lot of issues with the communication aspect of it. But certainly I think as you play more and guys get more and more confident, the best teams I've been around are the ones that communicate and talk the most, offense, defense, and special teams. And we need to do that without a doubt.
You brought it up, and a couple other players we had in here today too, about the red zone struggles. Is there anything specific you put your finger on with not finishing drives, or just go back to everything else with the offense that needs to be better?
No, but it's concerning because it's 2 years in a row I've come in here after the first game talking about red zone issues in the first game. If you remember, I'm sure you guys remember the North Carolina game last year. We had 3 possessions inside the 22-yard line, I think, or 25-yard line that we didn't score touchdowns on or whatnot, and there was a factor in that North Carolina game. And then certainly the other day we didn't do a good enough job in the red zone. It's everything. It's calls, it's execution, quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end, offensive line, coaches, where we all just need to be better. It wasn't anything where we just said, oh my God, this is just an absolute breakdown. It's hard down there in the red zone, and we've got to be better about getting the ball in the end zone than what we were on Saturday.
Following up on what you said about the helmet communication issue on the touchdown, are there any other specifics or details you can share about that, and were there any other instances where that was a problem?
No, I don't think so. I think the biggest issue is, when it cuts off at 15 seconds, and I believe I'm correct in saying this, it comes back on manually. It's not like just an automatic button where as soon as the guy gets tackled, it automatically just turns back on. I believe there's like an actual human being that turns it on and off. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize, but from the way it's been explained to me. So when you're playing teams that go really, really, really fast, we need the guy that turns the helmet communication back on to turn it back on really, really, really fast, and not like waiting for the referee to wind the 40-second clock or whatnot either, or referee to give him a signal. We got to go, so no excuse. We got to be able to get signals in, calls in, and execute. We just had a little bit of a delay being able to communicate on that particular play. And I'm not blaming the helmet communication because we gave up a deep ball, but we've got to overcome that. But we also need to make sure that we're able to talk to our players as soon as the play's over, because the offense is rolling.
I hate to belabor the point, but is it like the same person? Are they in the stadium? Are they doing it for both teams? Like, how does
they're in the stadium?
Yeah,
they're in the stadium. I know we have a guy on our sideline. I guess they have one. I don't really know him. I know how ours operates. I'm not sure the whole system, but it's something that we've addressed that we've, I don't think will be an issue going forward. And again, there was one play where it was a little slow getting in and not an issue. It wasn't an issue after that. Game 1 jitters, Game 1 kinks we got to work out for sure. But again, having said that, I'm not saying that's why we gave up that play. We've got to be able to. We've coached forever where we don't have helmet communication. We got to be able to get the signal in, and everybody's got to be able to make the call. And then if you don't know if you're not sure, then don't let somebody run past you. Somebody get deep as well. But it wasn't an issue after that. We've addressed it. I think we got all the issues worked out. And to answer your other question, no, there really wasn't. I thought other than that, it was very smooth offense and defense as far as the communication to the player on the field went Saturday.
What was your favorite Kyle Kennard play from Saturday?
Favorite Kyle Kennard play? Well, see, man, when you're player of the week and you have that many, I don't know if I have one, to be honest with you. All of them, and I'm not trying to dodge the question, all of them. When you have that many pressures and hits, there were a lot of good ones. I appreciate the way that he plays, and I'm pleased with that whole edge room. Kyle, Dylan, JT, Gill, Dez, get BT back healthy. That's a good group, and like the way that we can keep throwing people at teams.
Shane, tomorrow I think you got to do your first injury report, and I guess you have to do it
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So how long do you anticipate that taking week to week? I mean, is it kind of you had to rearrange your schedule? Is it a pain, a pleasure, what?
I wouldn't say it's a pleasure, for sure. Did not have to rearrange the schedule. I think between, we meet as a staff every day at 4:00 in the afternoons, and or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays we do. And in that, we always meet with Clint and talk about all the injury situation as well. So between Clint Haggard, George Wynn, myself, I don't think it'll be much on my plate. I would imagine a lot of head coaches aren't even going to mess with it. They're just going to give it to the trainer, and the trainer's going to say, "Does this look good?" And the head coach is going to look at it for 5 seconds and say, "Yeah, it's fine." And so it's not a big deal. It is what it is, and I don't think it'll be too time consuming from my standpoint.
When you're watching the film back on Dylan Stewart, what do you feel like allowed him to be so explosive and get into the backfield consistently?
Obviously, God bless that young man with a lot of ability. So that's the first thing. Two, Sterling Lucas has done a great job, coaching him up. And, just being able to bring a lot of different pass rush moves, whatever you want to call it, his physicality, his speed, like I said, his God-given ability that helps him. And then Sterling's coaching that allowed him to do that. But then you got to give credit to the other 10 players out there as well for both those guys. Some of those pressure sacks or D-line games or D-line pressures where there's other people involved and somebody's doing their job and Dylan's the one that happens to come free or Kyle happens to come free. That's what was about to happen on the long quarterback run. We just didn't quite execute it like we needed to. So DBs and linebackers covering to make that quarterback hold on to the ball and not be able to get rid of the ball quick. And, it's a great credit to our defense as a whole unit.
Shane, I'm sure a couple weeks ago you read about your coaching pal in the upstate now taking text questions from fans instead of getting into it. You still talk to the fans when they call, and is that something you like doing? Do you ever worry about a Tyler from Chapin calling in or something like that?
No, I do. We were 2-6 at one point last year, Pete. So yeah, you get a little worried about calls when you're 2-6. But one, we've got great fans. And I enjoy that aspect of it. I do. I don't mind asking the questions. They have the right to call in. And if they think I'm doing a crappy job, they got every right to call in and question what we're doing and tell me I'm doing a crappy job. I understand why Dabo did it and not, disagreeing with it. I don't mind, that aspect of it. We take questions from the studio audience as you guys that have been there to that show know, and people that are there in the crowd, and then people that are willing to call in as well. So I always look forward to hearing from Hampton from Ohio, who typically calls in every week, and whoever else that calls in. I enjoy it, and part of one of the things that makes college football great. For now, we're 1-0. If I may change my tune as we go.
Were you surprised at all, based on what you thought going into the game, that the passing game wasn't clicking on all cylinders like you thought it would? And how much did the 6 defensive back look actually affect the passing game in its connection versus the run game?
Surprise, maybe. I mean, did I think that we would throw the ball better on Saturday or more efficiently than what we did? Sure. I mean, I did, but I knew it was going to be a challenge also. And, quarterback starting his first game and a lot of new people around him, I didn't expect us to go out and throw for 400 yards against that stolid defense. And we really wanted to run the football, and that's why we ran it 50 sometimes or whatever it was on Saturday. So we need to be better, because I thought we would be better on Saturday and have every confidence in the world that we will be going forward. But at the same time, I know the challenges that style of defense presents, just because, they take away your easy access throws. So it's easy for people to say, well, just throw hitches and throw slants. Well, they take away a lot of that with the way that they play defense. And it's very much a 3-3-3-1 type look, whatever you want to talk about it. And there's a lot of guys back there, and they all fit the run from different places, and then they all can drop into coverage from different places. And certainly there's some things schematically we could have done better to help, for sure. We connect on some of those throws. We're probably not in here on Tuesday talking about the passing game, but I know firsthand. I mean, when I was at Southern Cal, I'm sorry, I talked to Lincoln last night. When I was at Oklahoma and we were playing in that league, that was like the in vogue defense, because Iowa State ran it. And Iowa State came down there the year that Oklahoma had Baker Mayfield in the year before I got there, 2017, I believe is what it was. And Iowa State came down there, like that's the style of defense they ran, and it kind of became the in vogue defense in the league. And then Baylor started running it the year that Baylor played for the Big 12 championship against us, and Iowa State continued to, and then Texas started dabbling in it. And I know from coaching tight ends at Oklahoma and working with Lincoln, it presented challenges. And if you go back and look at a lot of those games, and we lost to Iowa State when I was at Oklahoma, and Baylor, I think, had us down one year 28-3 on a Saturday night, and we came back and won and beat them later in the year in the Big 12 championship, if I'm not mistaken. So it presents challenges, and we weren't the only team that has struggled with that. There's no question about it. Having said that, do we need to be better? Absolutely. Our players know that. Our coaches understand that. No one's happy in this building with the offensive performance at all, and we can be better on defense. We busted 2 things and gave up about 120 yards of defense on 2 plays. Special teams was sloppy in some ways, did some good, but we all need to be better, and there's no question about it, starting with me. Phil?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. After watching King at Georgia Tech a couple of games and Castellanos last night, and then seeing Sellers run the ball so much Saturday, in theory, what kind of threats does a quarterback like that cause for or create for a defense as they're preparing for you, knowing you've got a quarterback who can take off and run it 20 some odd times?
Yeah, just that. It's another threat. Normally if you're coaching defense, you're worried about, the running back, and you're not so much worried about the quarterback. You don't have to account for that guy. There's games defensively where we've gone into a game saying, if they run zone read and the quarterback pulls it, great. We're not worried about the quarterback. Like, make him pull it, and we'll let the quarterback go run. I don't think teams can necessarily say that about us, and it presents problems. Do we want to run Lenore 20-plus times every game like we did the other night? No. But the fact that you can do some different things formationally and get people out of the box but still have the ability with a 240-pound running back to run the ball downhill presents problems for defenses. And all those guys, I got home last night and got in time to see, I think, the 4th quarter of the Florida State game. And that quarterback for Boston College is a little bit of a different type player than Lenoris as far as size goes. But he can do a lot with his feet and can certainly throw it as well. And that's what excites me, Phil, about this offense. Just as we continue to get this passing game going and Lenoris gets more and more comfortable, we can do a lot, and present problems to teams because of the ability to run and throw.
Hey, Coach, I had a question about Nick Harbor. He had some targets, but no catches. Is that someone you'd like to scheme open looks for, or just kind of keep running the route tree and trust that Lenoris will find him?
No, we want to scheme stuff for him. We got a lot of guys that we need to get touches, if you will, and try and find ways to get the ball in their hands, whether it be the running back position or tight end, receiver. But Nick, there's no question about it. He's a guy that presents a lot of problems to defenses, even if it's just the threat of him running past people and catching deep balls. We've got to continue to, and we've certainly have in the past, and will continue to also.
You've talked a lot about growth and especially with the wide receivers and Lenoris, but I'm curious, from a general perspective, how you walk that line, which I imagine is sort of tricky between being okay, this has to happen fast, but also, okay, this can't happen overnight in terms of chemistry, gelling, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think you just continue to work, and that's the thing that I've told our players this morning, and I read this one time, or somebody said it, but be willing to do the unrequired. If we just think that as a team we're just going to be able to come in and come to meetings each day, then go out on the practice field for a couple hours each day, and then take off at 12 noon and we'll see you tomorrow, and you don't think about football and you don't put in extra time to think that it's just going to happen, it probably isn't. Be willing to do the unrequired, meaning the extra work and whatnot. And that's the thing. It's just you can't force feed it, but to me, you just keep your head down and you just continue to work and maximize every rep in practice and being able to do extra stuff, which I thought it was great. I mean, Monday is the players' off day, and I was walking through here yesterday morning, and you've got, a couple, Luke Doty and Robbie Ashford are in there watching tape together, and And the DBs are always in here on their own, or you see people down there getting extra stuff done in the training room or weight room, or one of our backup long snappers goes in the indoor on Mondays just on his own to just practice his snapping as well. Just stuff like that we've got a lot of, don't get me wrong. We just need to continue to do that, stay the course, and it'll come. It's a long way to game 12, but it's not, and then it's 88 days away. So every day, that's probably the biggest thing, just every day, every rep in practice matters, every meeting matters, and the more and more comfortable and whatnot we can get, the better we'll be clicking here really soon. Hopefully Saturday. Thank y'all. Sorry for the delay.